Nityanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrusham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami. Nityanandam, and welcome to today's episode of Living Advaita. The show I was planning for today is going to be done tomorrow. Today I was planning to talk again about causing yourself for Sadashivoham, how to manifest the funds, how to break your karma patterns, how to go beyond whatever obstacle you're perceiving is stopping you from reaching the feet of Sadashiva Himself, our Swamiji. Today is more like a breaking news episode of Living Advaita. It's more like a public service announcement. It's more like a red screen alert that comes up before a storm. Today I would like to talk with all of you about food. You may recall Swamiji recently said something very powerful. A lot of people kind of laughed at what Swamiji said as if he was saying a joke. Swamiji said even eating the wrong dinner one night can throw your experience and expression of Sadashivoham, Sadashivatvam, off. Even just having the wrong food for dinner can pull you out of that higher frequency and delay your expression of enlightenment drastically. Now, some people might think Swamiji is referring just to accidentally letting some onions or garlic slip into your plate, or some green chilies, or drinking too much coffee, or having too much sugar. Of course, those things are not ideal. But in fact, what Swamiji was referring to, he said once, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Swami Vivekananda both, if they saw that one of their disciples was starting to develop a siddhi that he or she was not qualified to handle, not ready to live with, the master would feed that disciple fish curry, because eating fish is enough. Any power expressing through the form will just be destroyed. The expression of that power will be rendered moot. Not only fish, Swamiji actually also mentioned onion. Fish and onion. Or he said onion and garlic chutney. If people eat these, it directly stops the expression of Sadashivoham. But there is something far worse plaguing the planet right now than onion and garlic. Even Swamiji has said onion and garlic can be used medicinally. In Ayurveda, in Siddha medicine, where different foods are given medicinal properties and used, depending on the diagnosis, to treat certain illnesses. Swamiji said, for example, if somebody suffers with obesity, then onion can be considered like a medicine if it's a weight-related issue. Like that, he named different issues for which garlic and onion can be used as a medicine. There are some foods, however, that even medicinally, they're void. There is nothing good about them. Genetically modified foods. Things that are sprayed with man-made chemicals in order to kill small animals, in order to kill insects, and in order to kill other kinds of plants. There's one global conglomerate corporation now that has basically taken over the Western food industry. That company, which many of us know by the name of Monsanto, basically sees no end to the cunning, deceptive, dangerous, pseudo-agricultural, poisonous methods it's using to destroy human health on planet Earth. Now, Some of you might know that before I came as an Adinavasi, before I became a full-time resident of Nityananda Peetham, Bengaluru, Adinam, I had started my own YouTube channel. And some of you might know that the first video series I had on that channel was called Free Yourself from the International Conspiracy Against Enlightenment, an essential 10-step program. Within that video series, one of the steps is to avoid genetically modified and non-organic food. I gave a bit of a breakdown about why to avoid these things. For example, genetically modified foods. What is genetic modification? Genetic modification means tampering with the genes of something. There have been cases reported in which tomato plants contain the genetics of rats, because in some food laboratory somewhere, some scientists discover that a rat, a particular breed of lab rat, has an extended resistance towards a specific airborne particle. So they will splice that rat's DNA with a tomato. Ever after, if somebody eats one of those genetically modified tomatoes, they are literally consuming the DNA of a rat, and you are what you eat. So a genetically modified food will genetically modify you. There have also been cases of apples, breeds of apple that contain fish DNA because of that genetic modification. In any case, this is something for another episode of the show. I'm not here today to talk about genetic modification, despite the fact that that is one of Monsanto's first claims to infamy. I'm here today to talk about one particular poison, and I don't use that word lightly. There's one particular poison that I found an article just now online. One particular poison has made its way into so many of the foods we eat on a day-to-day basis in North America, in Canada, and the United States, that it needs to be revealed, because Monsanto has gone to the extreme measure of actually hiring Blackwater private security, which is basically like an army not connected to any country. They have military-grade force, military-grade weaponry, military-grade monitoring. They track people. Monsanto has hired this company as their security to track activists around the world, to prevent an uprising against their poisonous industry. What kind of uprisings have happened? You know, in Africa, as a part of a so-called relief effort where people are starving, grains and seeds were donated. When the African people planted those grains and seeds, they didn't want to use them again the following year, because plants that were meant to be annual, not perennial, did not return to life for the second growth season. Monsanto tampered with the seeds such that every single growth cycle, the land has to be torn apart and reseeded. If you're a farmer, if you're a gardener, hell, if you're a human being who went to elementary school, you'll know that there are certain kinds of plants that rejuvenate themselves year after year. You plant it once and it keeps coming back. Monsanto is screwing with the human food supply such that even plants that are meant to come back year after year don't. What does it tell us as a civilization if starving people in Africa are saying no thank you to Monsanto? No thank you. These are people who have been known on record to eat dirt because of how hungry they are, just to fill their stomachs. These people are saying they would rather starve than eat food grown from Monsanto seeds. Again, I'm getting a little bit off topic here. I'll come back to the main issue at hand. Anyhow, why Monsanto has hired Blackwater for security, who knows? Are they going to come after us to attack? Let's see. I would dare Monsanto to try to come up against Sadashiva, because who knows how many gunas are there in the etheric plane around this energy field, ready to take down anybody. Pardon the interruption, there's a lot of work going on here right now. Ready to take out anybody who stands against them. Ready to take down anybody who stands against Sadashiva. So Monsanto, or Bayer Company, the pharmaceutical corporation that has now purchased Monsanto for $66 billion, apparently that's the price of human life. If any of you are watching this, come after me, I dare you. The reason I'm making this episode of Living Advaita today, specifically about Monsanto, is that a lot of foods that even I used to eat as a health-conscious vegan living in Canada have been contaminated with a Monsanto product called Roundup, which is a weed killer that should never, ever, 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 ever come in contact with anything anybody is eating, because it's been linked with cancer. It's been linked to affecting the endocrine system, the release of hormones in the human body. Children who are exposed to this toxin go into premature puberty. And I've done some side research that shows any child going into puberty early, experiencing the awakening of sex drive early, will not be able to use their pineal gland, which is the physical representation of the third eye in the human brain. Literally, that means Monsanto is keeping kids from opening their third eyes. It's also giving people cancer. And it's doing it in such a way that all the international news media corporations are blocked and prevented and bullied out of broadcasting. So you're not going to find this on mainstream media. I hope you make this viral anyway. I don't care whether or not you share this video that's going to be on the Nityananda Sangha YouTube channel. I don't care whether you quote me directly. I don't care how you put this information out, just get this information out. This particular poison, pardon me, I'm looking down because I'm reading this off my screen to make sure I get every detail accurately. If you're a regular Living Advaita viewer, you'll know this is not my typical style. But I want to make sure I read every one of these kinds of foods and let you know very clearly Swamiji himself wants people to stop eating this. It should not be considered food. Actually, in the ancient Vedas, one scripture revealed that in the time of Kali Yuga, one sign of Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, is that pre-cooked food would be readily available. I can say it's very safe to gather that's the time we're in now. Avoid eating this pre-cooked crap. It is not food. The things contaminated by Roundup, the Monsanto-made poison, are Cheerios, Wheaties, Trix, some brand called Annie's, ANNIE''S. Apparently they make something called gluten-free bunny cookies, cocoa and vanilla flavored. Just because something says gluten-free doesn't mean that it's healthy. Understand that. Anything that says gluten-free, anything that says vegan is not necessarily healthy. Also contaminated by this poison are Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Kellogg's Raisin Bran, Special K, Frosted Flakes, Cheez-It, Ritz, Triscuit, which was one of my vegan favorites back home, Oreo cookies, and get this, Kashi brand cereal. Like I said, even I used to eat a lot of this stuff. Kashi was literally my favorite brand of cereal food because the company positions itself as organic. The company positions itself making it look as if it's making a service to the world, making whole grain, whole food, vegan, using a great variety of different grains. It's even called itself Kashi, the sacred name of Varanasi itself. How dare they? Feeding poison to humanity and using the word Kashi, labeling some toxin with the name of Sadashiva's own city. It's truly disgusting. It's deplorable. It's evil. How dare they? Besides that, a brand called Stacy's, which makes pita chips, Lay's chips, Doritos chips, Fritos chips, Goldfish crackers. How many parents do you know who give their kids these little Goldfish crackers? Goldfish brand should be completely avoided. Little Debbie, Lucy's, 365. 365. This shows us the state of the world right now. 365 also positions itself as if it's some kind of an organic company. This is the brand that you'll find in Whole Foods. 365 and Nature Bar. Nature Crispy Cheddar Crackers. So the poison, its actual scientific name is glyphosate. And I'll read out a little bit about what happens when you consume glyphosate. Glyphosate has been linked to cancer, and it has been deemed a probable human carcinogen by the World Health Organization's team of international cancer experts. The childhood cancer rate is steadily rising, as we all know, and experts say that they don't know why. If we take a closer look at the foods containing glyphosate, I think it'll be pretty safe to say we know why. Research also indicates that glyphosate is an endocrine disruptor. Endocrine means the particular chemicals released by the human brain. This is what I'm filling in. And I'll put a link to the article I'm reading in the description box beneath this video if you see it on YouTube. That way I'm not plagiarizing, I'm not steel swanning this. I'm giving due credit. An endocrine disruptor basically means a neurotoxin that puts itself into the human brain, stopping the release of the chemicals that we need in order to enjoy the human experience, in order to have the right thought processes going on, the right connections being made through the neurotransmitters. Endocrine system is directly related, of course, also to the pineal gland. I'll read again. Research indicates that glyphosate is an endocrine disruptor which disrupts hormones and leads to reproductive problems, early onset puberty, obesity, diabetes, and some cancers. When it comes to endocrine disruptors, very small exposures are the most damaging, and the dose makes the poison, does not apply. In other words, it's not that if you have a huge amount of this that's going to affect you. It's if you have tiny exposures, a little bit here, a little bit there, that the real problem sets in. So when it comes to eating Cheerios, and there's that little bit of this poison in the Cheerios, you have them repeatedly, right? Most Cheerios eaters will have them for breakfast on a daily basis. Watch out. Don't poison yourself. Glyphosate is a broad-spectrum antibiotic, killing the good bacteria in your gut. Wonder why so many people have digestive issues, irritable bowel syndrome, difficulty processing food in the West. Poor gut health is linked to inflammation and a whole host of diseases. As GMOs laced with glyphosate are commonly fed to farm animals, this could very well be contributing to antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Naturally, the foods I've read out to you guys today are vegan foods, pure vegetarian foods. I don't want to use the word pure here. Vegetarian foods. Foods that don't include animal byproducts. But for those who are still barbarically consuming the dead flesh of murdered animals, those of you who still have the blood on your hands and in your stomachs because you're hiring hitmen in the form of slaughterhouse workers to do your dirty job so that you can consume the butchered corpses of once living beings take note. Even though I didn't read out any meat products on this list of things affected by Monsanto because it's basically a weed killer, even the flesh that you're consuming is laced with this poison because the farmed animals, farmed is too gentle of a word, because of the tortured, imprisoned animals who are eventually put onto death row and murdered for you to eat, have been fed this kind of crap. Why is this weed killer in foods to begin with? Why is it in non-GMO and organic food? This is what I really want to know. This is why I felt so passionate to make this the episode for today's Living Advaita show. Like I said, the brand Kashi, I used to eat that cereal because it's labeled not genetically modified, and it's labeled as vegan, and it's labeled as organic. Now I'm seeing the only safe place to eat food on planet Earth is Nityananda Pitam, Bengaluru Adinam. Thank God'll I get to live here. All the rest of you, if you're a little bit alarmed by the amount of poisoning going on in society, the fluoridated water, the lies taught as reality in school, and now this, send your kids to the Gurukul, get yourself into Sadashivoham or inner awakening as soon as possible. Just pack up and be here. When everything in the outer world is leading towards your poisoning of your inner space, your physical body, the environment around you, society, and everything, literally, Sadashiva's energy field, Swamiji's energy field, I'm really seeing now it's the only safe place to be. So back to this article I'm reading. Why is this weed killer in non-GMO and organic foods? First, many GMOs means genetically modified foods, were invented to be resistant to glyphosate. That means they've been genetically modified to resist this weed killer. Since genetically modified foods have been introduced to the use of glyphosate has gone through the roof. It's now the world's most widely used herbicide. Glyphosate is not just used on GMOs. Conventional non-organic farmers use Roundup as a drying agent on crops such as oats and wheat. It can't be washed off as it's taken up into the plant itself. Let me explain this in a way that all Nityananda devotees will understand. Swamiji explained to us that if we bathe or shower in fluoridated water, the fluoride permeates the skin and enters our brain system through the skin absorption. He explained that just consuming something to flush the toxins out of our body will not decalcify the pineal gland once we've showered or bathed in that fluoridated water. Because it enters through the skin, it has to be pulled out through the skin. So Swamiji explained if we rub turmeric and put kumkum over the forehead and the third eye, and now I'm seeing I had an antenna throughout this episode. If we apply turmeric paste on the forehead, kumkum over the third eye area, the neurotoxin will be pulled out of our skin. Anyhow, the same way fluoride enters us through the layer of the skin. Roundup, this toxic chemical, poison, doesn't just sit on the plant on which it's sprayed, it is absorbed into it. So when it's sprayed on wheat and it's sprayed on oats, no matter how many times you rinse and wash those grains, Roundup is going to be inside them. As the active ingredient in popular Roundup herbicide, millions of people are using this poison around their homes. And it's also widely used in parks and other public spaces. So think twice before rolling down that grassy hill. Unless it's a grassy hill in Bengaluru Adinam. How many of your friends and families have cabinets filled with these foods? These people need to know this information. Monsanto doesn't want the public to know these findings for obvious reasons. Their profits, their bottom line is at stake. We have all heard Swamiji debunk the psychology industry, the sociology industry, psychiatry industry, we know that Freud is a fraud and Jung is junk. Now we know it's not only the psychological pharmaceuticals, it's all the pharmaceutical corporations directly causing harm to human health. Why would Bayer, the makers of aspirin, want to own Monsanto? Why would a company that makes so-called medicine want to own the company that makes the world's leading poison? Start asking yourselves these questions and question the Maya matrix. This is all one expression of the Maya matrix, which Sadashiva himself has incarnated to pull us all out of. Just one more aspect. Now, the obvious conclusion for today's episode would be the food served at Sadashivoham, Bhaga Shastra food, food from Sadashiva's own cookbook, Sadashiva's own kitchen. Not only that, also Sadashiva's own garden. Everything that we are served in Bengaluru Adinam is organic, not genetically modified, and grown locally. I personally know the kitchen volunteers who are sourcing their ingredients. None of these cows are given feed with genetically modified ingredients. None of the grains are sprayed with Roundup. The animals, the cows for the dairy, are treated lovingly. Even a vegan like me can't find fault in the Goshala. If at all you care about your physical health, do not consume foods made by the brands I listed in this episode. Check the comment box below. Check the video description. Check the link and share it with everybody. Let's put an end to Monsanto putting an end to our food supply. For now, thank you for tuning in. And tomorrow we'll return to our regular planned episode of Living Advaita, how to cause yourself for Sadashivoham. For now, Nityanandam. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sat Guru Padukarpanamastu. Om Nityanandam.